Good evening. This is a sort of general video overview about DHS and how they operate in Oregon and how the lawyers and judges I think I wrote it down, all the people are involved. So you have, I'll read you the list, the partial list I have. So you have the judge, the court, the lawyers, the caseworker, the manager from DHS, the supervisor, the home certifier, the foster mom and dad, respite foster parents, the SSAs, more than one, and transport person, cars, buildings, counselors, special need categories, translators, law enforcement, detectives, everybody that's involved in these cases. And so it's quite large. I would say that, well, people say, I say $10,000 a month per child, but other people said it's more than that. So if anybody has some more refined figures, let me know. And so there's my website, dhsoregon.com. Of course, there's the Oregon's DHS CPS Child Trafficking Mafia on YouTube. And you can write me email and ask for pamphlets and bumper stickers that I send out for free as I have time and money for publishing and for postage. I wanted to talk to you just sort of, we're at the past the 5.5 year mark with our two youngest kids in foster care, headed into TPR, and that we've seen caseworkers come and go, we've seen attorneys come and go, and that this is a long struggle that you will be in, as we've been in. And along the way, everybody involved is making money off our children. So now the definition, you've probably heard of the sound of freedom. My beef with that is it's made out to be brown people in a foreign country doing all the bad stuff, rather than the bad stuff that's going on here in this country. And always when problems are presented, you have to ask yourself, okay, here's the problem they're presenting. What problem are they avoiding talking about? What are they not telling us? Well, one of the things they're not telling us is about how Americans, the American government, is paying for trafficking. So the definition of trafficking is that if you move a person through means of deception, if deception is involved and there's economic or some other benefit made off doing that, then that becomes trafficking by definition. So if DHS lies, and if witnesses lie, and if the court accepts their lies, if the judge accepts their lies, and the lawyers don't fight the lies, and there's an agenda, a narrative, then it's trafficking, because lots and lots of people in the system in Oregon are making money off the trafficking of families' children's. So they pick on the poorest, they pick on minorities, they pick on biracial families, they pick on the handicapped, they pick on people with any kind of vulnerability, the ones who are least likely to fight back, have least likely to have the means. So in Polk County in Oregon, millions and millions of dollars have been made off our 6 children over time, all in one file folder. So if you can get 6 children from one family It's much more cost effective. So if you can get 6 kids from one family, one folder, one case, that's easier for the administration and of DHS than getting 6 kids from different families, 6 different folders. So it's way in benefit for the administrative end of DHS CPS Oregon to target families with more than one child, because they make the same amount of money off of each child that they bill and all the people involved, but it's all in one case. And so it's just easier for them in that way. Someone proved me wrong. But so they target families, and they don't care what they destroy. The lives of the children, the lives of the family, the marriage, the economics of the family, none of that matters. There is not anything they won't stoop to. There is no deception, no dishonesty, no lying witness that they won't make use of to accomplish what it is to build and keep the case alive for as long as possible. So we have had 4 kids age out, and we have 2 kids still in foster care more than 5.5 years on. Okay. And they will absolutely brutalize fathers and mothers. It will be very difficult to go through. And not a whole lot of people are organized to help you out. You have to come up with your own survival means, both economic and in your heart at the end of each day. And there's this way of good and evil. And so when an organization like DHS is more than willing to use lies, and the court is more than willing to accept lies and manipulate information, then it's satanic. So you have to look at how this power structure is created, how it works. And it's satanic from the top down. So we've seen caseworkers come and go, and the one is just as toxic as the next one, just different. And they're allowed to be toxic. They're allowed to be corrupt by this mechanism of CPS DHS that comes from this organization in the government that has no accountability, no moral accountability, so they can do what they want. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they can do what they want to families as long as it keeps making money. And because they get federal money when they remove a child from the home, it's just a turbine. They're just going to keep taking kids. They've got all these new buildings, and they're not going to back down and have less buildings. So they have to take more kids. And if it slacks off for a while due to COVID or something else, they just have to take more later. And they'll say, we're trying to keep kids and families and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, their budget isn't shrinking for what they're doing. There's a lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a lot of contractors. There's a lot of people that aren't actually DHS employees who are part of the money program as well. I don't know if it's 10 to 1, but there's a lot of people involved that aren't DHS workers. And so those people aren't going to complain. If they're taking the kids' neighbors 3 doors down, they're not going to complain because they're going to pay their mortgage. Okay, they make a business. So they have a care home, they have a foster home with 3 or 4 or 5 kids. They come in, they go out, they get certified, and one kid leaves, they get two more kids or something. It's cash, okay? So they can pay their mortgage with that. They can, they can do all the things with those kids that they've taken through the state that the parents don't get to do with those kids. And I remember in our case, I think it was Laurel Levain or something. I forgot her name. I've got it written down. She told my son, "Oh, we're going to help your family." What a joke. We're going to help your family. We're going to economically destroy you. We're going to destroy your business. We're going to destroy all your relationships. We're going to do our best to destroy your marriage. We're going to do our best to destroy contact between siblings. We're going to do our best to destroy everything. But like in 1984, we're going to help you. CPS is going to help your family. So there's nothing they won't stoop to destroy you and your family. You have to hold on to that little glimmer of hope. And I don't know if it's hope that you're going to get your kids back. I don't know if that's the hope. I don't know if there's hope that somehow the people that lied and did cruel things to you or your wife or your husband, whoever, that there's going to be any justice in it. I don't think there can be any justice in it, because the years of your children's lives that have gone by, you'll never get them back. Okay. And there's no forgiveness without repentance. People always say, you gotta forgive and forget. It's like, no. Show me in the Bible where it says that. And so they just keep doing what they do. And they, like I say, the caseworkers roll on and they work for a year or two or whatever, and they do all the damage they can do and they're allowed to do. They do it with a different twist than the person before them. And then they move on and their salary goes up maybe. They get a better job or a bigger job at DHS. And so their salary goes up, and they did the job in front of them, which was, okay, you can brutalize the family as much as you want, but, no one's accountable to the judge or the court or anything. So, whatever their thing is about being cruel or abusive or traumatizing you, it's fine. And the next caser will come along and the money machine keeps running, and the next caseworker will, be told to do certain things and then just have free willing to do other things, So you'll get some fat slob of a woman, slamming your life and your kids' lives around. And it's very unlikely that she could get a job where she had to do real work and produce something. So this is like DHS CPS is like a haven for a fair number of useless people, a really large percentage of them being women. And if we look back to what happened in Germany in the Second World War and the jobs that some of the German women had, there was no limit to their cruelty to other women, to men prisoners, to women prisoners. There was no limit to their cruelty. And some of those women went to prison, and some of them were executed after the war because of the cruelties that they had done. So you have all these women in DHS, CPS that specialize on full throttle cruelty to mothers and fathers and de facto to the kids, because the kids don't get told what's trashing their life, If you bring up anything, the kids are like, why are you and mom not on the visits together? Well, we'd like to be, but, that's how it's arranged, and you have, you have to talk to somebody. I'm not sure who, but you got to talk to somebody, because if you say something, the SSA will come in and say, no, 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 you can't talk about that. Foster parents, nobody's monitoring them for what they're talking to the kids about. Okay. So it's a waiting game. And I don't think there's any forgiveness. I never think of forgiving any of these people. I have, like, if you will, some level of compassion, because oftentimes in human lives, people don't realize the damage they're doing, or they know they're doing damage and they think it's okay, and then later in life, they figure it wasn't okay. So, some of the caseworkers have kids, and you think, well, maybe the kids getting treated the same way as they're treating us. I mean, you can't be a dirty, rotten bastard at the DHS office in Dallas, Oregon, and then go over to your kids and not have some of that leak out onto the floor, or into whatever you're cooking for dinner. I mean, it permeates their miserable little dirtbag lives, And I've watched it, I've watched the attorneys and the judge, caseworkers, the so-called expert witnesses, the certified liars that come into court, how everybody plays along to keep the thing going on as long as they can. And I watch for the collateral damage in their own lives. It's like a study, It's like a study. And it's like, you look at the cases, you look at your case maybe, and you say, well, this could have been just they're stupid and incompetent. But you can't dismiss that they intentionally did evil and that it affected children at the end of the line, It affects the parents, sure, but the parents have more coping mechanisms. It affects the children, and there's all kinds of studies about this, but nothing changes. And the government, the American, whatever you want to call them, government, they could care less. They don't care. They always try to make out that other countries are the evil countries. I think America is one of the most evil countries on the planet. The people inside have no clue and no interest in what's going on. And people in other countries get the brunt of, bombings and killings and chemical weapons and all the nasty, and coups and assassinations and all the nasty stuff. And the government has no shame about it. So why is it any different with DHS and CPS? They get sued all the time. They just pay. They pay the money and keep on doing what they're doing. And there's no heart searching in this organization or CPS in any other state. And you see articles about, well, the court ordered this and ruled this, and there's a big audit investigation and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it gets back down to, the attorneys. I remember my first court-appointed attorney was an extremely useless fellow. He still is. I filed a bar complaint against him. Doesn't, no intellect, doesn't cross-examine the witness, doesn't stand up and demand a mistrial, doesn't do anything to upset the court in this whole game that's going on. They all go down to the bar in Dallas afterwards and drink beer and smash beer cans on their foreheads, right? So they're going to do what they're going to do to you. All you can do is survive, do the most you can do for your kids. Figure out ways to be the fly in the ointment. You know, they think they have all the power. It's not exactly true. You can be a fly in their ointment, and a fly in somebody's ointment can raise its head at the most inopportune time. You don't know when that time is or who it's affected. But remember Aesop's fables, you know? The lion and the mouse, and one day the mouse comes along and chews all the ropes and lets the lion go free. It got caught in a trapper's net. The little tiny, you know, there's the old African proverb. If you don't think one fly in the ointment can mess things up, try going to sleep in a room where there's one mosquito hunting for you when you go to sleep, when you're in northern Laos where PF malaria will push your brainstem out the back of your skull, dengue, hemorrhagic fever, all by one mosquito. Yeah, if you don't think one thing can change the balance. So you come up with your own ideas of how to be the fly in somebody's ointment. Look for vulnerabilities. I use some black humor, you know. I taunt the reception people like this is all just fun and games, you know, ripping off people's kids and getting a big paycheck. We didn't get any paycheck. Our kids were impoverished by what DHS, CPS did to us. That's never going to be forgiven. There's no name at DHS, CPS that's going to be forgiven for what they did to our kids. Okay? So you can be stupid and not say a word or stand up or be the fly in their ointment when it's happening to the neighbor's kids, but it can happen to your kids too. And you can say, well, the foster parents probably didn't know what was going on, only what DHS told them. You think you're going to try to adopt somebody's kids and that's going to be okay with the parents? You know, you're not going to know the story about what's going on, and just the secrecy, doesn't it make you like, well, what if there's a bunch of stuff going on here that DHS didn't tell me about? Well, so you're going to move and you're going to change their names and everything's going to be honky-dory. And karma will just forget it all happened. And no misery will follow into your life when you least suspect it. And the kids never find out what you did to them and what part you played and how you lied and covered it up. So the caseworkers roll through. The lawyers will roll through. And the lawyers are all sort of just go along with the court. And let's spend as much money as we can. And we'll hire this person and that person. And there's money to be spent. You're not getting any, you know. So it's about your resilience. It's about helping other people out that are going through a similar experience. I think one thing I notice about lawyers is I had one lawyer, and his name was Jim Leuenberger, and he passed away during my case. And he was respectful. You know, he didn't look down on my knowledge and perception of what was going on and how it was going on. And I had a person ask me today about certain exculpatory evidence. Did DHS or the DA give it to us? And I said, no, they withheld it. The judge knew that they withheld it. And the judge did everything he could to keep it from getting into the record. And, but it didn't matter because they can do whatever they want, right? So they all play along, and I noticed that oftentimes attorneys will look down on you like you're not being paid as much or anything, so I'm getting 180, $300 an hour. I remember this one lawyer, we had a video to watch that was released. We forced Liberty House to release this video, but it was after the jurisdictional trial, which was all by plan, but we did get it. And I remember this attorney invited everybody into the room to watch the video, the plumber, the janitor, everybody. And then I was letting him go. So I think that 20-minute video or something burned up $6,000. He charged for every one of the people in that room for watching that video, full rate, whatever that was, $3.50 an hour or something, So, there's a joke about Satan and Jesus talking. I forget what the joke was completely, but it had something to do with Satan lying and doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. And Jesus confronted him about it. And Satan said, "Sue me. I got all the lawyers. Where are you going to get a lawyer?" Maybe it's prophetic, but anyway, I did notice that oftentimes with lawyers, your ideas are not welcome because, you're not the professional, Well, I have an inkling that I've put a fly in more people's ointment than the lawyers have, because I don't work within the constraints of their constructed system that's designed to protect them and allow them to make money and allow them to break moral laws, the system, not a specific lawyer, but the system that they're working in. I don't work in that system. And you as a parent have to find out ways around that system and don't play their game. I don't play their game. I don't play the court's game. And what was it that rules for radicals? Always keep them off balance. Never let them know what you're going to do next. So, but I played the long game. I remember I told Sarah Scott Pickett at DHS Dallas, Oregon, was the caseworker. It might still be the caseworker. I don't know. That I wasn't in this for 5 years. We're at 5.5 years or so. But I do 20-year plans. So I was in this for 20 years, not 5.5 years. And it takes time, but you tell people the story, what happened. You tell people how it was done. And the victims right now are 2 little kids. For me, my wife. That they asked me today, how come we can't see you and mom together? How come you're not at the farm? They know there's family and they're being denied family. And I think my wife said in court, send the 2 little kids home. If we break any rules, you can take them. No big deal. And DHS was totally silent because they were caught. They are so damn dirty. The whole lot of them. Scumbags. And CASA, I mean, that shriveled up old guy, Neil Clark. So the court's out as the consequences for people who have lied in this case and played along accumulate in their lives. They're not consequences I have much control over, but I just find it interesting to watch. I mean, like Steve Walls, the attorney for the two little kids that kept screaming, TPR, TPR. He's been screaming that for 5.5 years. His wife left him. Poor little fucking bastard. His wife left him. You know, 2 daughters. You know, they're not stupid. His wife wasn't stupid, that's for sure. Not forever. But I mean, people, you know, find out what goes on. So you read books, you watch stuff online, you come up with ideas, you network with other people, you help people as you can. And I talk to my kids about, you know, down the road, what do you want? We'll get it for you. We can't fix certain things now. We endure. What do you want? What are your dreams? What do you want to accomplish? You know, I've got kids that have aged out and support them. Call you up. Hey, Dad, I need $100. You know, or hey, Dad, the car broke down. Or I want to do this project. Would you be able to put up some money for me? Always communicate with your kids best you can, best you're allowed. Always communicate with them. The real tragedy is when they TPR kids and they take them somewhere far away. They tell them, they lie to them and change their names and try to erase their past. I mean, it's like tearing down statues. They try to erase history, the relationship. They try to destroy relationship. And, you know, for so-called Christian foster moms, you know, they get out there and beat their drum about how important it is to steal other people's kids. The whole Bible is about relationship and the honesty of relationship. Read the book of Proverbs. It's all about relationship and people who destroy or divide relationship. It's never anything good. And so DHS CPS is a business that profits off destroying relationship. They traffic children, and lots of Oregonians, I don't know how many, but it's in the thousands of Oregonians go along with it and profit off it. And they rationalize that somehow what they're doing is not evil. Maybe they've got a care home for trouble kids. Well, how did those kids become trouble? You know, I watch my son. I worry about him. I pray for him every day. I worry about him because I see that stresses are being put on him that he's not completely divulging to me. And how he reacts to certain things tells me that there's hidden stresses. And everybody's lying about it. The foster family's lying about it. DHS is lying about it. They're all lying about it, and the outcomes will come. Well, you track foster care, it's very well known. You know, kids end up in jail, they end up on drugs, they end up in prison, they end up with their lives destroyed, all kinds of things. And that there's so much data on this that's proof that DHS CPS is fully satanic because they don't care. It doesn't change. You can look it up for every state. All these audits and investigations and lawsuits, it's all the same stuff, okay? And all that's missing from the movie Sound of Freedom. That this is people in America doing it to their neighbors. You know? I don't like that lady down the street. I'm going to call CPS on her kids. I mean, I'll see something. I'll see her run back in for the phone or run back into the house for something, and there'll be 2 little kids in the front lawn, and I'll call in and say, there's 2 little kids in the front lawn at this address, and their mom's nowhere to be seen. She shouldn't have those kids if she's not going to take better care of them. That's what happens. Wives go after their husbands. Mothers go after their daughters' kids. You name it. It all goes on. CPS needs people to call in, because that's the hook. That's how they get started on it. Somebody call in, please. Call in the hotline. Doctors, teachers, whoever it is, call in the hotline. You saw somebody of a certain ethnicity, call it in, right? You are hiding people of a certain ethnicity in your basement or in your attic or behind a wall. Someone's doing that. You get wind of it, call it in. Just make us money. Help us get this all done. You got some glass. Let's break some glass tonight. How about that? Right? Yeah. So you got to survive. Write down stuff. Some people say take notes about everything. Well, when they're making you walk on nails or hot metal, it's hard to write. A lot of times I didn't write. There's a lot of stuff I didn't write down. It's like I don't care. I'm not going to write. I'm not going to spew this stuff onto paper. I'm not going to write. But do try to network with people, with other people. I think it'll give you some strength. You'll find very few people in the churches that are listening. There'll be people in the churches taking kids. I want that baby Sally and Tom. They don't have a kid, and they're going to get one from foster care. A brand new baby. They tore off that woman's titty 2 hours after that little baby boy was born. That's so cool how you can get a baby. Kids for cash. Isn't it wonderful? And I love Jesus too, right? It's like CPS shows up and you're having a freaking baby in a manger. What's your problem? Give me the baby. And who was the person trying to do that? It was like Herod, It was like an angel intervened and said, no, you go out of town the other way. You are not talking to Herod about this. You can imagine. What do you mean you're like riding on a jack mule or something, And hey, that's not your kid anyway, so you have to leave the marriage because it's the kid's just this woman. We don't know who else but the father is, but it's not you, so take a hike, buddy. Yeah, that would have been CPS, in Bethlehem, all showing up, search warrants, everything. Look at this woman having her kid in a manger, not in a barn next to a cow, right? That's child abuse and neglect. And Joseph let it happen, so he's failure to protect. Lock him up, right? No. Try to network with other people. Sometimes you'll find some comfort or some friendship from somebody that you don't know, but they will tell you, I know all about CPS and what they do. I was talking to a retired cop today that I've known for years and years. And I know cops nowadays, they lie and do everything, but he worked back maybe before it got so bad. And I was telling him, I said, yeah, we still have 2 kids in foster care for 5.5 years, more than 5.5 years now. They're trying to adopt them out. I remember years and years ago, he told me we were talking about something. He goes, yeah, CPS takes people's kids and they don't like to give them back. The parasite class. So you'll get, people will offer you some consolement from various directions, but a lot of stuff you have to just cope with it alone. Try not to let it destroy your other relationships, like your marriage, your relationships with other people. Try to, try to see through it and the beautiful things in life, the miracles that can still happen to you. And, my wife says to me, God has blessed us in so many ways, but he hasn't given me my 2 little kids back. What's going on? I pray every day, every night for my 2 little kids, and I don't have them back. And I told her, I said, I don't know. But I keep going on. It doesn't change my belief in God. It doesn't keep me from having dreams or seeing miracles happen in my life, things that I couldn't have fathomed, you know. And I don't know all the things that go on, or I'm very sad about, I know my kids are going through difficulties without me being there to help or be a friend. And so nationwide, the movement of awareness of two things: how corrupt our government is. It's obscenely corrupt at every level, state, city, county, federal, obscenely corrupt. Okay. And but there's more and more families and people and advocates who've had horrific things happen to them and their kids, who are pushing back against this. And I don't know if it's significant. I don't know, because I don't think you're going to change it much at the legislative level apart from throwing the bums out. And we know the system's rigged. And like I say, too many commoners have their hands in the pot. Now, I talked to one person the other day and I said, they said it used to be that they just targeted the poorest families and everything, but the need to take kids, they're moving up and they're taking kids from working blue collar people. The class that they're stealing the kids from is climbing. And it's a business. And so it's like, what's there to stop them? They just can take as many kids as they want, But nationwide, there are a lot more people talking about it. Like I say, I don't know in the long run what that's going to change. It remains to be seen. When people tell me, can you get a good lawyer, or, can you go to your legislature and this stuff, I don't really buy into all that. I think we have to publish it and we have to put it in front of people and get common people and get shame the goody-goody two-shoes that are playing along with this, and, be contentious about it. Be a contender about it to say, no, it's not right. It's trafficking. Sound of Freedom is about the boogeyman in another country. We have the boogeyman right here in this country, and it's the government. If you're letting thousands of kids get trafficked across the southern border, that's the government. But they're also trafficking hundreds of thousands of kids right here in this country. And if you look at the wreckage of families and lives and marriages and economics, it's the economics they destroy along the way and move all that money upwards, and take it out of the community, take it away from families. So it's a class war. It's a war against families. They come up with new ways of going about it all the time. So I think if you're, making money off it, you got to be really concerned. I think, if you went full-time into advocacy, you're not going to get rich. But if you're able to say, okay, if I'm able to advocate for families and be effective, and I'm no worshiper of lawyers, far from it, but if I can be effective, and I think a layperson comes at it a different way, they can be effective because they're not playing part of the game, But if you can be effective, like I work a different job to pay for printing and bumper stickers and, everything else. I suppose if I had a way to eke out an income, but I can't think of charging families to give them advice, on how to get their kids back. I can't think of that. I just try to think of like, okay, what's the most, how can I focus my business where I can make, the better quality jobs, that I make enough that it buys me free time, that I can have time to sit down like tonight, not be exhausted, and do a video and get the word out there, and try to help families, because I don't think you'll go through anything worse than having your kids stolen. You know, it's like being forced to watch while your child's eyes are put out in front of you or their hands are cut off. You know, this is stuff that happened in wars, you know, and that's what DHS does to all of us, is they torture our kids in front of us. So my son today, I can see he was sad, that there was sadness that he was bringing with himself to the visit about concerns he had that weren't resolved where he was. They couldn't tell me about. I think they've been told a lot. You can't talk about all these different things. And then they get lectured about it by the SSA or the caseworker or whatever. But I can see sadness. And yeah. And DHS, they do that to your kids in front of you. So may they get the mercy they have given us and our children. All of it. Take care. Don't be discouraged. Stay hopeful. Look for the miracles that will come your way. Don't be discouraged when you can't figure out why your prayers to get your children back have not been answered. Because be hopeful and be thankful, because in that we've already in part defeated these evil scumbags that play and cooperate as DHS, CPS, and all their minions. And that's our victory, is that we aren't them. We love our children and we want our children back. And we'll never forget. And I can't see where these people deserve forgiveness, because it's just a job to them. Like the women in camps in Europe during the Second World War who did heinous things to prisoners. Our children, us as parents, we are prisoners of a very similar system. Take care and never give up.